Can we just say for a moment how awful was yesterday's interval training with the knees to elbows, the dumbbell push press, and then selling your soul to the devil on the bike? That was awful. That was awful. Absolutely awful. Awful but effective. What does my shirt say? I think it's it might say Happy Tree. It's HPYTRE. It's just a little campfire thing. I got it at a surf shop in Santa Cruz. I don't really know much more about the shirt at the company other than I walked in. I said, it's a good looking shirt and I need some non-CrossFit shirts. And I bought a couple. Let's see. Okay, Jen says, she's got audio, but that happened to me last week. Just kept refreshing the screen until it worked. Okay, gotcha. All right. Let's dive in. So, starting with, what did I say was one of the well, there's a fun question at first that got a whole bunch of thumbs up. That was Jen's question of, why am I so sore? What is the best ice cream flavor and why is it cookies and cream? It was, the sore thing is interesting, isn't it? And again, everything that we do, we could go down a rabbit hole. When you pour your heart and soul into something and you embrace intensity, one workout a day with intensity, respecting heavy days, so once again, you can do them with intensity, and you're not just doing 2 or 3 things in a mediocre fashion over the course of the day. Isn't it crazy how much of a dosing one workout a day with intensity can give you? Half the time I feel like I couldn't imagine doing 2 or 3 other things over the course of the day, given, how hard I pushed on everything else. It's just, it boggles the mind, but hey, to teach their own. What is the best ice cream flavor? Back in the day, and to this day still, I really enjoy some ice cream. If I had to go to the store and buy some ice cream, and I don't know if they have Ben & Jerry's all around the world, but Ben & Jerry's would usually be what I would go to. And it could be anything with a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is fantastic, obviously. And for the longest time, I was generally a vanilla-ish sort of an ice cream guy, vanilla with mix-ins. But then recently I got into, there's that one called the Tonight Dough from Ben & Jerry's. It's a chocolate base. Oh man, that's good. And here's the other deviation. Back in the day when I would frequent more regularly a place called Dairy Queen, and I would get a Blizzard, there was always 3 things that I would get in my Blizzard. 3 mix-ins I would get in the same Blizzard, obviously. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, Heath Bar, and Butterfinger, all in the same Blizzard, and it was not a good thing to do for long-term health, but holy cow, it's just amazing. Oh, let's see, okay. Lindsay, when you visit Scotland, you need to have ice cream from the ice cream van. Amazing. Oh, ice cream is just so phenomenal. So phenomenal. I love ice cream. Okay, so let's see. Alright, so, the next one I think we have was with a 14. I don't think anyone can beat that. No, I'm sorry. There is a 16. Let's see if anybody can beat a 16. Going once, going twice. The 16 has it. Okay, the 16 is from Cameron. Let me scroll back up to it. And I obviously scrolled by. Okay, 16. From Cameron. You have 2 additional hours per week to dedicate to fitness. You do CF Linchpin 5 days a week. Where's that time best spent? Improving mobility, more monostructural training, more technique work, more strength training. What should it be? Okay, popular question. Again, if I am being honest, this is your question, not mine, so I'll answer your question, but my initial thought is if I have 2 extra hours a week, I am not spending it on fitness. Absolutely not. I'm going to read, going to be with my kids, I'm going to relax, I'm going to, I love to study Spanish every day. I'm going to immerse myself in something outside of the gym. That's me personally. Okay, but to your question, because it's 2 hours to spend on fitness, I would, I am an actual, a believer in the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete that we is classic CrossFit methodology, which looks like a pyramid, a triangle, if you will. And the base of the pyramid is nutrition. And this, since it's the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete, it's ideally how you would build yourself as an athlete from the foundation to the very tippy top. And then, here's something that I love about CrossFit that you don't get in a bunch of other fitness stuff. We intentionally put the word in there, theoretical, not factual, the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete. Because the truth is, there are so many things about the human body that even after so many years of science trying to figure them out are not as well understood as people would have us believe. And a lot of things that are presented as facts are not actually facts from a scientific standpoint, meaning that all other possibilities have been disproven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and you are left with this as a fact. Most of the stuff presented to us as facts are far from facts. They're opinions, they're theories, and somebody puts them out there as a fact. CrossFit at least will say, hey, this is our theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete. This is what, based upon empirical evidence, which is powerful, meaning what you have seen and experienced in yourself, your clients, and your community, this seems to work, not just for me, and not just for my friend, but to my 50, 150, 200 clients, are all moving in the same direction when we apply these principles. That's compelling data. So that gets us back to the theoretical hierarchy of the development of an athlete. The base of that is nutrition. And so meaning you shouldn't probably put your body under stress and try to, rev that system up if you're not fueling it properly. The second part, after you have your nutrition dialed in, is metabolic conditioning, basically your engine, your lungs, your body's ability to process oxygen. Got to get that straightened out. If you're not fueling it properly and you're not circulating, oxygen, processing oxygen properly, probably don't want to load it. Probably don't want to rev up the intensity extraordinarily high. So we're going to build those two things. And the next layer on top of that is gymnastics, aka body weight movements, your ability to move and control your body weight in space, which makes sense, right? If we're following the bouncing ball here. It's fueled properly. Oxygen is being processed better than it was before. And I still, you probably want to be able to just move your body to do an air squat, to do a push-up, to do a pull-up, to be able to hold a plank position before I throw 135 pounds on your back. That would make sense to me. So, next part being gymnastics. After that, then it's weightlifting, or external objects, weightlifting and throwing. So basically now we're adding external load to the body because we've built up the body to an appropriate capacity to handle some extra stress, some external loading. And then the culmination of that, the very point of the pyramid, is sport, where now you've built all these body systems and processes that now you can take this and go out in the field of play, the field of battle, the field of life, or whatever, and ideally have yourself set up for success. Do your sport-specific training, because now you have a machine being your body, ready to do whatever that is going to be. So and I am a believer in that model because I've seen it work time and time again over the course of 15 years, and I've seen bad things happen when people violate that model and try to, hey, my air squat sucks, but I'm going to take on an Olympic lifting bias and just snatch all the time. That doesn't sound like a good idea, so on and so forth. So I would get the nutrition dialed in. You get two extra hours a week. Get the nutrition dialed in. Meal prep's a fantastic way to do that. The next thing that I would do as well is I would work on that good old metabolic conditioning for sure. And metabolic conditioning, be it running, a longer recovery run at a low intensity, some sprint work, obviously lower volume at a higher intensity. Mix it up with the bike and the rower, so you're maybe not getting that impact out on your knees and joints out on the pavement. You can mix that into a fair amount and still, while it's taxing, recover relatively well and be able to go on with the rest of your week training. The next thing I would do above and beyond that is bodyweight gymnastic stuff, from the scales like you would see on CrossFit.com, the slips work, if you will, which is the first S being the scales, which is the front scale, the back scale, which takes flexibility and balance and coordination, your L-sits, your inversions, your plank holds, stretching, all that stuff's fantastic. Develop your strict pull-ups, develop your strict ring dips, develop your strict handstand push-ups, get that L-sit as best as you can possibly get it. There's a body of work in gymnastics, in bodyweight training, and obviously I know this from being married to a sensational gymnast. Gymnasts are phenomenal, just creatures of just physical power, largely without external loading. Largely without external loading. The amount of things that you can do and the strength required to control your body in space and through isometric holds, such as chin over the bar at the top of a pull-up, pressed out on the rings, plank hold, L-sit, and then obviously the non-isometric holds of actually moving through those movements of doing dips, doing push-ups, doing air squats, things of that nature. You could almost do that for the rest of your life and be fantastic. And most of us, whether we realize it or not, are far more advanced with the barbell than we are with the gymnastics. And we've touched on this before, right? In the world of, but yet for some reason people think they need to spend more time with the barbell, even though their barbell competency really is here, and most people's bodyweight competency is down here, and they think they need to spend more time here. That doesn't make sense to me. The most complicated thing in the entire world, and we've said this before, that you can do with the barbell is the full snatch. The barbell snatch, the squat snatch. Okay, so the snatch and the clean and jerk, and with the snatch being number one, it does not get more complicated. You are at the top of the food chain if you can do that movement. And I didn't say if you can do it with world record loading, right? Maybe you can just squat snatch with an empty barbell. Maybe you can do it with 95 pounds, 135. Maybe you're somewhere over 200 pounds, whatever it is. There's probably some loading, even if it's an empty barbell, that you can say, yes, I can actually do the world's most complicated movement with a barbell. Sure, I'd love to get better at it. Sure, my technique needs to get polished, but count me in. I can do it. The things that we do in CrossFit for gymnastics are laughable in the actual world of gymnastics. So in Olympic weightlifting, you're actually doing the hardest thing. Yes, you want to get better. Yes, you're not great, but you're doing it. In gymnastics, your capacity is below that of just a newborn infant. Ring muscle-ups, handstand walking, those are probably strict handstand push-ups. Those are probably some of the more technically challenging and complicated gymnastics moves that we do in CrossFit. Those aren't even considered like newbie, beginner. Those aren't even scored. They're not even worth points in gymnastics. They're considered so just profoundly easy. You don't even score a point for doing a ring muscle-up. It's not a graded move or a handstand walk or a handstand push-up. Those are just other things you do to start doing things that they would consider beginner, intermediate, or expert. So we're not even in beginner level gymnastics capacity, but we're already at the top tier in weightlifting. And again, the loading dictates, I get that. But if somebody says, can you barbell snatch? You can go, yes. But there's hundreds of gymnastics movements that somebody goes, can you do this? You go, no. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? No. Not even close. And then somebody goes, what do you think you need to do? And you go, lift more. In my head, it doesn't add up. And obviously, Cameron, I'm not saying that that's what you were asking. This isn't a general thing. So that's my very long why, as to if I had 2 hours extra a week, which would come out to 20 minutes a day, 6 times a week, I would spend it on nutrition, metabolic conditioning, and gymnastics to the best of my ability. So it was a moderate rant, right? That wasn't a big rant. That was a moderate rant. Okay, so next question. Let's see, I did scratch down some answers here, so I would try to keep myself on track. Okay, so that was Cameron's 16. Cameron also has the next highest ranked question. He's crushing it today. He's got a 14, and that one is, what is the best way to know if you are actually getting fit? Great question. So, simple things to do. If you're on the whiteboard, they have wonderful software, wonderful tech. There is a reason that I chose to partner with them. And they have their fitness level, which can be a wonderful tool, to see how you're tracking overall in general. Might go up and might go down. That's okay. You should track it not necessarily day by day, like we said, by like the stock market. Really check in on that number every quarter. Every 3 months. Is it roughly the same? Did it go down to? Did it go up to? And how is it at the end of the year? Because fitness doesn't change. It's tough to make a significant impact in your fitness one day to the next day. Things happen in chunks of time. So you've got to give yourself a little bit of time to analyze and assess that. Another way that you could do it is you could take a handful of movements, for example, and now you would have to have some, I'm sorry, my attention out my front window here, there's a squirrel doing some odd things in my front yard. Anyway, you could take a series of movements, or workouts, I should say, if you understood, just the basic concepts of programming and variance and how the human body works, which is the whole goal and point of these videos, the goal and point of the daily videos and the private track. The kind of community that I wanted to grow through Linchpin was not only a very fit community and a very cool and humble community, but a highly educated community when it comes to what we're doing so that you understand the intent, you can modify it if need be, and you get a good sense of programming, because then you can modify, scale as needed based upon where you are, what your equipment is, but it also would come into play with your question, because what you could do is you could take a handful of workouts, maybe 2 or 3 that are short, medium, and long. You could take some lifts together. You could choose maybe a dozen things, not any one particular thing, but a dozen or so that over the course of all those 12 things or 15 things, whatever it happens to be, incorporated a wonderful spectrum of variance. You needed conditioning, you needed body weight capacity, you needed heavy lifting, short, medium to long, and then you could see, let's say that they were all, and this is going to relate to something I'll talk about here in a second, but let's say you took 3 lifts. You took your front squat, your overhead squat, and your clean and jerk, okay? 3 just lifts. And then those are 3 numbers. Now maybe one stays stagnant, one goes up, one goes down. Maybe one stayed stagnant, didn't move. Your overhead squat, for whatever reason, went down, 3 kilos, and your clean and jerk went up 4 kilos, okay? Well, if you're just looking at your overhead squat in isolation, you might be like, my overhead squat went down, I'm a failure, I'm moving in the wrong direction. But if you took all 3 of those together and added up the 3 weights, that number might shift a little bit, but overall, based upon the example that I just said, you're overall moving more weight across those 3. So overall, you're pushing into the right direction. And you could play that same game with, maybe you take Helen, and then you take 2 or 3 other workouts that have a wonderful spectrum of variance, and you add up the times. And if the times for those 3 to 5 workouts, when you check in with them every quarter, every 6 months, or whatever it happens to be, if the time is a little bit less overall than it was 6 months ago, you're accomplishing that body of work faster. And there might be a little bit of variance in there, but overall, things are moving in the right direction. You could do this in a poor fashion also. If you only chose workouts that had a bias, if you only chose lightweight workouts, you could track those and not have a good sense of your overall fitness. If you only tracked heavy workouts, same deal. So the workouts that you chose would have to have a nice spectrum to them, which you could then check out and get a sense of what's happening in your life. The other thing is, this is one of the reasons why I created the 12 tests. So the Linchpin 12 tests, if you're unfamiliar with them, aka the Dirty Dozen, if you go to CrossFitLinchpin.com, click on workouts, and then click on the 12 tests, you can see the 12 tests. I created 12 benchmark workouts for Linchpin that was exactly my goal, that over these 12 workouts, you would have a wonderful array of variants of all the aforementioned areas, such as loadings, repetition ranges, time domains, the whole 9 yards. And they're all workouts that are for time. So you could take all those 12 times, add them up, get that one time, and just track that one big overall time if you wanted to. And that would give you a really good sense, because there's a bunch, so let's see. And I kind of did it that way. There's not a singular heavy lifting day in there, because then that would be a number that you couldn't add to the times, etc., etc. But I wanted to make it so that, I'm looking it up right now on the internet, that would make it so that, but I wrote them so that you have to be strong to do well at some of them also. And so therefore there is kind of a built-in strength component, yet it is for time. And that would give you a sense. We've got, and some of the things, squat cleans at 135, you've got thrusters at 75 pounds, 400-meter runs, ring muscle-ups, you've got box jumps, wall balls, handstand push-ups, you have deadlifts at 315 pounds for men, 205 pounds for women, you've got 95-pound thrusters, rowing, chest-to-bar pull-ups, you've got back squats in sets of 20 at 225 pounds for men, 155 pounds for women. You've got a 2-mile run, kettlebell swings, power cleans, front squats, and shoulder overhead at 205 pounds for men, 145 pounds for women. Deadlifts, overhead squats, handstand walking, power cleans, double unders, clean and jerks, rope climbs, you name it. So that's over the course of the 12 tests, and they're from very short things, such as, what's a super short one? Oh, here's a nasty little deal. CrossFit Linchpin test number 4. 2 rounds for time, 18 calories rowing, 15 thrusters, and 12 chest-to-bar pull-ups. That's it. 95-pound bar for the men, 65-pound bar for the women. So once again, 2 rounds for time, 18 calories rowing, 15 thrusters, 12 chest-to-bar pull-ups, just as fast as you humanly can. And then we're going long, also in a different one. For example, Linchpin Test 5. For time, 20 back squats, 225 pounds for men, 155 for women, a 2-mile run, and then another 20 back squats at the same loading. And there's 10 other tests that all are hitting different rep ranges, loadings, time domains. And so, you're going to need an engine. You're going to have to be strong. You're going to need body weight. You're going to need conditioning. You're going to need everything to perform well across these 12 tests. And they're all for time. So you could take those times, add them up. And if in general, that one big time starts getting a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, then you are heading in the right direction. Things are going wonderfully. So here's the other part of that, which is interesting. The question being, what's the best way to know if you're actually getting fitter? That was all the response that I just gave there. The ugly truth that some people don't want to talk about, but even if the truth is uncomfortable, we like to chat about it here at Linchpin. The day will come where you will no longer be getting fitter. The day will come where if you check in every 6 months or a year, your fitness level may get worse. Or the big time that I just said there, if you add up all the Linchpin 12 tests, will have been a little bit slower than it was last time. And that's just because the human body is like everything else in this world. A car, it eventually wears out. And if you are relatively fit right now, hitting 5 workouts a day, tightening up the diet, things are going nice, and you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it happens to be, and you've been doing CrossFit for 1 year, 5 years, whatever it is, you're probably in pretty darn good shape compared to the regular population. Well, if you keep working out for the rest of your life, you are not going to be fitter at 85 years old than you are today at 35 years old. And that should be, such a dramatic example should be obvious, right? When I say that, people are like, oh yeah, clearly, well, obviously at 85 years old, I'm not going to be back squatting what I squat now, and obviously at 85 years old, my whatever, 400 meter run time or whatever it is you're still doing at 85 years old isn't going to be the same. Like, I get that. Well, okay, well, if you get that, here you are today, and here's 85 years old as just a random example we're choosing down the road. And let's say that you're still increasing, getting better, getting fitter, getting faster, getting stronger. Things are great. Well, sometime between now and 85, that incline of fitness that you're on is going to plateau. And it's going to be stagnant for a while. And it varies per human being. I don't know if your plateau will be for 6 months, 6 years, or 16 years. Not sure. But then at some point in time, for all of us, if we continue working out, if we continue tracking our data, doing whatever it is that we can do, that level will eventually start to go down. You will be deadlifting less. You will be doing fewer pull-ups in a set. Those are your 2K row time will be getting a little bit slower every year. And that's just an unavoidable truism, is that a real word? Reality of human life. And so it's great to track your fitness. It's great to know, but just know that that's eventually coming. And the goal, and that's not, it's not, maybe it's sad a little bit, but the goal becomes now to increase our fitness. And this is classic CrossFit methodology, by the way. I didn't invent any of this. I'm just the messenger. The goal is to increase our fitness as much as we safely and reasonably can now in a healthy manner while maintaining, the longevity of our knees, back, and shoulders by not overdoing it, by resting when we need to. But you would like to get as fit as you possibly can so that eventually when you reach that plateau, it's at a higher level compared to a lower level because you attained a very wonderful amount of fitness. And if you have this bank of fitness stored up, the goal is also that will hopefully keep that plateau as high as possible for as long as possible. And then when it does start to decline, that hopefully the decline is gentle and slow over the course of many years, meaning that you are maintaining as much of your fitness as humanly possible while continuing to work out, and you don't want a steep decline, right? So that's the goal, and that's why we want to train smart. We want to keep our bodies healthy. We want to rest. And we want to do it in a manner that is protective and is productive at increasing long-term fitness. And, CrossFit defines health as your fitness over the course of your lifetime. And that's exactly what we're talking about right here. It's great to be fit right now. And that's why I say, to some degree, as you get older, and people are very hard on themselves about their numbers and their times, and I used to be able to do this and I can't do it anymore. Gotcha. That's coming for all of us at different times. So it is what it is. And at some point in time in your life, it won't necessarily matter what you squat. It will just matter that you are squatting. And the fact that maybe it wasn't what you used to squat at 37 years old doesn't matter. The fact that you're 61 and you still have something on your back and you're trying to move your body through a functional range of motion means that you are a superhero compared to your peers. Period, end of story. And you are that grandma or grandma that doesn't get tired running around with their grandkids and can still go out and do their own yard work. And they don't care that they live in a 2-story home because stairs are not scary to them. They can go up and down them all day long. And that's the goal, a long, wonderful, fit, healthy life. So, man, luckily there's no time demand in these. We got 2 questions answered in 31 minutes. We're doing great here. Okay, so Cameron was on a tear. We had 2 great questions answered there. Let's see. And, okay, the next question. So let's see, that was a 14. We had a 14 and a 16. So what can beat, we had Jen's question to start with. 14 and a 16. Okay, there's a 10. Okay, a 12. Can anyone beat the 12? I think that's going to be the next one. It is. Okay, so let me get back to the 12. All right. It's 12 is from Colton Hicks. Can you help me better understand CrossFit health? Is its main goal battling misinformation outside of CrossFit regarding health, or is it something else? Let's see. And what is your role? Okay. All right. Oh, there's a couple more hits on this. Let me see. All right, good stuff. Here we go. So, CrossFit Health kind of has a two-pronged charter, if you will. So first and foremost, it's getting out the word about the mess out there. The mess being bad science, being corruption, being all this, again, misinformation is the best way to say it, be it for advancing one's own interest, business, or financial means. The public has been fed a lot of terrible information, but since it was on the cover of some fancy magazine or website or whatnot, or newspaper, people don't have the time to do their own research, and so they generally assume whatever they're reading must be true. Because why would it not be true? And this has not led people in the United States of America and around the world, quite frankly, on the path to avoiding chronic disease. Some profoundly awful information has been given to people. It's been masquerading as science, and nobody was really shedding a light on that, and that was our goal. And it's been an eye-opener for me as well. I'm here to tell you an oversimplification is there's a lot of bad science out there. A tremendously shocking amount of bad science. Not all of it, not all people that are out there, doing devious things in the lab. That's not what we're saying, But there's a lot of bad science out there, and it makes it into the mainstream, and people just buy it at face value, and they start doing things which are not effective and not indicative of long-term health. And there's a lot of corruption out there. Good science is really hard to do. It's challenging work. It's meaningful work, and it needs to get done, but it's not as ubiquitous as you may think that it is. And so that's a big part of CrossFit Health, is trying to expose that and basically get the truth out there to folks. And then the other big part of what we do in CrossFit Health is just networking physicians. So we have, CrossFitting physicians in growing numbers all around the globe right now. And these are physicians that are CrossFitters, and they've attended a level 1 seminar, they've earned their credentials, and now we try to network them so that they can communicate, share best practices, try to get the good information into their hospital administration so it influences their patients. And it's just a wonderful thing when you have a physician that understands that squatting and deadlifting is actually a very beneficial thing for you, and it's not a bad thing for you, and actually you should be doing it. And they understand excellent ways to eat to actually lower your blood sugar. And these are big things of what we do at CrossFit Health, and I think they're going to have significant long-term goals. Doctors are in a tough position. Over the course of the last few years, I've spoken with more physicians than I ever have in my entire life. They're great folks out there doing really, really tough work in a variety of conditions, some of which have bureaucracies and rules that make telling the truth really challenging. That's probably a nice way for me to say that. And we try to connect them with each other so that they can hopefully try to slowly improve their situations. And how wonderful would it be, if you had somebody went into a primary care physician, chronically ill, overweight, diabetic, hypertensive, whatever it happens to be, just out of shape, not on the path that they should be. And that physician who, how often do you see your doctor? Once a year? Is that maybe recommended? If you see your doctor 3 times a year, that's huge. Something's probably going on. People don't see their doctor 3 times a year. Again, you're lucky to see them once a year. Well, how much of a significant impact on your life can somebody have if they see you once a year, right? But if your CrossFit trainer sees you 5 times a week, 52 weeks a year, how big of an impact can that person have in your life? And hopefully that statement didn't make somebody defensive that, as a nephrologist, I'm not trying to insult everybody. That's just how the system works. It is what it is. And, the more regularly that you see somebody, the more that you can check in, the more that you can keep them on track. And I understand the two have different roles. If you break your femur, you don't need to go to your CrossFit trainer. You need to go to a physician. Period. End of story. But with regards to all these lifestyle changes that need to be implemented in someone's life to carry them forward and help avoid chronic disease and keep functionality head to toe, it's probably not going to occur in a medical facility, such as a hospital. It's probably going to occur through your CrossFit trainer at the local CrossFit gym. And those two worlds coming together and understanding what each other does, that's the goal. Because again, getting back to what I said, how amazing would it be if somebody comes in, they do whatever their assessment is, and the physician understands, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to go find your local CrossFit affiliate and get involved in that community, and they will be able to significantly help what you have going on. So that's that. And then my role in CrossFit Health also, on top of some of that stuff, is I'm the media manager for CrossFit Health. So a lot of the things you see on the website with the older folks working out in the living room set with odd objects and things like that, I basically program most of those workouts. I'm there when the shooting goes on, oversee the filming. We've got some amazing videographers that do the editing and stuff like that. So that's kind of my role with that. Okay, let's see. Couple more questions here. 10:38. We're doing good. 3 questions in 40 minutes. All right, so that was the 12. I think we've got a 10 somewhere for the next question. 16, we covered that one. Rick. 10 upvotes on the question. When you work out on Instagram, you turn the music off due to copyright shutting it down. Correct. So, what's on Pat's playlist? What music is blasting when you're not on the other side of the screen? Okay. Well, truthfully, it's not uncommon for me to work out with no music. I know that's bizarre and peculiar, but it's not uncommon. If I do work out with music, it's most likely country music. I grew up, music as far as growing up, I'm a product of 80s and 90s rap, old school rap, which will always have a place in my heart. Absolutely grew up listening to it, love it to this day. When I say old school 80s and 90s rap, I'm talking EPMD, Tribe Called Quest, Gangstar, KRS-One, individuals in that realm right there. And then these days, like I said, big fan of country, just a little bit more mellow, relaxed, and also, but my favorite song of all time, and I don't know if this will classify me as, again, a weirdo or a lunatic. My favorite song of all time is Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. Take that for what it's worth. I think it's phenomenal. And I could listen to that while working out. It's not really popular if I'm working out with anyone else, but I could listen to that while working out. Because for me, when I'm working out, it's stressful and intense enough as it is. I don't need crazy intense music because the workout's intense enough for me. So I prefer something which is a bit more calming and relaxing. So anyway, that's it. So that's rather, I guess, diverse musical taste. I can enjoy old school rap, country, and Beethoven. That's variance, I guess. I guess that's what that is. Okay, so let's see. 10. What else do we have here? Got that one. Ooh, Cameron again. Cameron crushing it today. Why does CrossFit so rarely program bench press? Should it be included more? Excellent question, right? Allow me to answer your question, not with a question, but maybe let's just chat about that for a second, right? I think it comes down to transference and utility of the movement, and that's not to say that it's a bad movement, okay? It's not a bad movement at all. You want to do more bench press? Do more bench press. But here's a very simple equation that I apply to a lot of things. If you removed certain things from your program and you noticed them and they had a significant and negative, unquestionable impact on your capacity, it would be easy to say that you made a mistake and you should have included that movement in there, right? And I think we could do that with something like passing below parallel. Let's say that we just stopped going below parallel, period, end of story, no more below parallel. Do you think that that would negatively affect everything that you're going to do for the next 2 years? Probably so. I think you'd be a significantly less fit human being, and it's probably really hard to argue with that, which is why we would never even contemplate removing something like going below parallel. I used to bench press constantly because, especially being, a male, basically people dictated how fit you were or strong you were. That was the only question we used to ask back in the Globo Gym days, right? What do you bench? How much you bench? And based upon that one number, no other metric of that human being, based upon that one number, you determined whether or not they were legit. What do you bench press? 150. Huh. What do you bench press? 300. Ooh, nice, good bench. Must be in pretty good shape. Obviously now, knowing what we know about fitness, what a horrible metric to use to assess somebody. Now, I used to bench press constantly, always chasing that 300 number, right? Hit it a couple times, especially in the military. Come on, the military, just macho through the roof. What do you bench? Get that, get the chest huge, get the pecs up there, do some dumbbell flies, get that bench above 300, and then you're in the club. Well, then I left the military, traditional Globo Gym working out, and for the last 15 years have been doing nothing but CrossFit, which, as you mentioned, doesn't do a whole heck of a lot of bench pressing by far. And so, getting back to what I said earlier about the squatting example, where I'm pretty sure if I removed going below parallel from my life, there would be significant negative impacts. So now the question says, I lived half of my life chasing a big bench pressing at least twice a week and getting after it. I haven't bench pressed really that much at all now in 15 years. Has anything been negatively impacted in my physical capacity to perform work in the daily world, in the regular world, since bench pressing profoundly less? And the answer is beyond a shadow of a doubt, no. I have not noticed not benching ever. Not one single day on anything. Which leads me to believe that it probably wasn't as impactful for developing overall capacity as just, magazines that I read back in the day would have led me to believe. Now, this has to be encapsulated in what I said earlier, which is that's not to say that it's a bad movement. That's not to say that you shouldn't do it. Go ahead and get after it. But I also think it's interesting to point out that a lot of the other things that we do have transference in other areas. So your bench press may increase your bench press and maybe have a little bleed over to some other areas, but I don't think as much as some other things that we do. So we still do a lot of pressing, whether it's push-ups, ring dips, bar dips, handstand push-ups, a lot of overhead work from shoulder press to push jerk to split jerk to stabilizing something overhead like an overhead squat or a snatch to handstand walking, etc., etc. And we build a very strong back through ring rows and pull-ups and barbell rows and rowing on the concept too and deadlift, etc., etc. And a strong back and a strong midline, strong shoulders, all those things are also very much tied into the bench press. And this came into my view, it was probably like 3 years ago now, that I was at CrossFit HQ and somebody there was benching that day. And peer pressure, there were some friends like, hey, jump in on the bench with us, Pat. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea because I'm probably going to get carried away. Probably going to try to bench heavy because that's what guys do when they get together. And since I really haven't benched forever, I'm going to tweak something. So that's a bad idea. But peer pressure is amazing, and I hopped on the bench with everybody. And, back in the day when I was, chasing the big bench press, I hit 300 pounds once or twice. I think I might have got like 305, but that's it. Never had a monster bench, but I did hit that highly coveted 300-pound bench for a rep. But now I haven't benched in, 12 years. And I slide under the bench, and that day I got 275 pounds for a double without bench pressing in 12 years. That's interesting, isn't it? And that just leads me to believe that all of these other movements that we do, again, it's not a smoke and mirrors routine. There is actual incredible transference to even some movements that you might not do regularly, and not all movements are created equal. And you get more bang for your buck from some movements than from other movements. And so in general, we try to embrace the movements that have a lot of transference and give you a lot of bang for your buck. And that's where I would throw that in there as well. If you're developing a very stout, robust, and heavy shoulder press, which requires you standing on your feet, midline stabilization, high degree of flexibility, you probably don't have that bad of a bench press. But the opposite could potentially be true. That, let's say that's just you're working on your shoulder press and you have not been bench pressing. But if you're embracing the bench press at the exclusion, let's just say in this example, you're bench pressing and not shoulder pressing, it would be possible to develop a decent bench press and have a very poor shoulder press. But I wouldn't see the other one being true, where if you've developed a strong shoulder press, I feel like you'd have a decent bench press. That's just may vary by human being, but that's what a whole bunch of years of watching athletes have shown me. So, okay, I think that was the last one of the big ones that we had there. So now, 50 minutes, that's not bad. I think that was 5 questions in 50 minutes, so 10 minutes a question. Let's do a quick scroll, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, let's see here. Can I scroll through these comments? Sometimes this does not work well to scroll. Here we go. Starting all the way from the beginning. Hopefully you got your audio there. All right, we talked about my shirt. That Scotland had great ice cream. I haven't forgotten that. I motivated some people to go to Dairy Queen. Mitchell says, can't trust somebody who doesn't get M&Ms in their Blizzard. I can get behind that. I can get behind that. Okay, I think that's fair. Let's see. Dang it, Mitchell, I can't expand your question. This always happens to me on on Facebook Live. I can see you say, in your first week of the free trial, it says limited equipment in parentheses, then it says click here to see more, and I can't see more, so sorry about that. Let's see. Like the rant. Okay. Yep, country music and old school rap, I know, on very opposite ends of the spectrum there. Okay. Jesse, let's see. I think you've got something interesting to say, but once again, I think Facebook's going to mess me up here. I bench press more now than ever, weight-wise, in my life, and I only know because I occasionally test it, not because it's part of what it does. So yeah, I do. Again, there's some evidence from somebody else as well. I think that's. Oh, here we go. I can read it on here. I bench press more weight now than ever in my life, and I only know it's because I occasionally test it, not because it's part of my workout. So again, yeah, I do think there's just more bang for your buck in some areas than others. So that's that. I have to admit, I think I say this every week, I really enjoy these Thursday AMAs. They're fun. It's great to hear your questions. It's great to get to interact. And hopefully each one of these that goes by does nothing but make the Linchpin community more educated in the realm of what we do and why we do it. And that's just a good thing. If you're doing the workouts, you'll understand why. And if you find yourself somewhere that you don't have the ideal space or gear, you have a good understanding of what we do and why we do it, and scaling and modifications, you'll be able to make it happen and get a fantastic workout in based upon what you have available. So that's that. Have a great day. Enjoy your rest day. And I will talk with you later.